Hey guys, welcome to Archive TV. We've got a really special guest for you today. One of my oldest grow friends here, Sha Bud from 707 Seed Bank. And we're just going to kind of go over the history, our history together, the history of the cat piss, which is kind of the strain that he's known for collecting and the provenance of that, and how that ties into everything and what you're working on. And thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, bud. It's good seeing you again.
Yeah, for sure. It was good seeing you, spend a couple days over at your house like a month or two ago
Yeah,
on my way driving home just to felt like old times. We don't get many opportunities to do that anymore.
right, right. We're getting old. Times are getting
Totally.
a little tougher. Those buds you left were delicious. I smoked them all up.
Sweet. Well, it was
Yeah,
nice. You're still in the same place I basically met you in 20 plus years ago, I guess at this point. And it
yeah, I
just brought
know.
back a lot of memories smoking out. The first time I ever saw like big outdoor plants was at your house there, right? Um,
Right.
when I came in and helped you harvest that one year,
Yeah.
and I decided to not wash my clothes and show up at the airport smelling like a skunk. That This is a funny story, and then we'll get into one thing. But that time, I went to the airport and I took my computer out of my bag, and it just smelled like a skunk, right? And
Right.
I put my bag through the like scanner in Sacramento, and like they didn't find anything. I grabbed my stuff really quick, and I saw the cop walking over, and they like fucked with the guy in front of me, right?
Oh shit.
And so I like took my bag, put all my shit, went into the bathroom really quick and like took my deodorant out and like rubbed it all over all my shit to like get some smell. And then I went to the lady at the counter, like at the airplane counter, and I said, "Do you have a trash bag? I bought a bottle of wine and it exploded or it's leaking in my bag." And I took my bag, threw it in the garbage bag, and I went home with my bag in a garbage bag.
Oh man.
And that was like
Yeah. It's
2005, 2006 probably.
right. Right. All my old trimmers that used to come out, I used to tell them like, whatever you're fine with, just throw away those clothes. Like especially the international guys, just throw them away because no matter what you do, it's gonna stink. Right? There's no getting that smell out after a while. I mean, it's like almost embedded in the skin. You know.
It's just oiled into the fabric.
Right. Right.
So let's chat cat piss and where you're from, kind of the history, what your high school favorite herbs were, if you're looking for any of those still. Tell me a little bit about the Pittsburgh cat piss.
Right. So Pittsburgh Piss was my old high school strain. Grew up in the East Bay. Back then, it was nothing but cat piss and skunk. Like that was just all we had. Sometimes it came called as cat piss, or it just didn't have any names at all. We just call it, Killer Green Bud, Dink, Chronic, the Fire.
And what
uh,
and what year are we talking here?
we're talking 94. Yeah, 94. So in the school I went to, like several different varieties of cat piss. And sometimes we just named it after the dealer, like Tom the Bomb Piss or Nate Dog Piss, or we named it after the towns we got it from, Pittsburgh Piss, or there was one for Martinez that the HA used to run out of there, and there was also another one out of Danville that we used to get a lot.
HA
Um,
meaning Hell's Angels.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
So,
so was your experience that this strain was mostly grown, and at that time a lot of herb was really associated with biker gangs and those types of groups of people.
right, right. I mean, we got it from all sorts of random folks. You got it
So
from
it was
gangsters. You got it
widespread.
from, yeah, bikers. There was this girl Claire actually. We used to get some skunky. We called it a capus or the skunk from her as well. Uh, There's also these two twin brothers that used to sling some pissy weed back then too. Anyhow,
Do you think those
that's
were
just
all
what
the
I.
same clone?
No, no, all of them were different. It was just like how strains get bottlenecked. That's what it was back then. It was just kind of like the same flavor but different. Like some were lighter green, some were darker green. Structure. knowing what I know now, I know like some of them were probably definitely some haze varieties. They were loose, real airy buds, super light green, and just white from all the crystals on them. Uh, a couple of them were definitely probably some kind of haze sativa cross, and then others were straight like indica, pine cone shaped buds, real dense. And back then they didn't really trim weed. You trim the fan leaf off, but if it had crystals on it, they left it on it. So it would have all these, just little sugar leaves cocooning the whole bud, right? Um, that's what we grew up with in the Bay. Nothing fruity. It was always skunky or pissy. Like Shakedown Street. That's what it smelled like all the time. So that's what I grew up smoking. It was all that kind of stuff. And then later on in life, when I started growing, try to find those other cat piss varieties, but I just couldn't. I was throwing money at people left and right, and I got scammed. Went all over America looking for them. It is what it is. Um, and then the only one I was able to find was that Pittsburgh cut, which originally went by Uncle Bob. So and then it was just our crowd. We just called it Pittsburgh Piss, but the original guys called it Uncle Bob.
And you collected that
So
clone about 2007, 8, if I remember correctly, is when you finally were able to get your hands on it.
no, I think it was a little bit before that, but sometime between like 2004 and that time,
Hmm.
right? Not
That was when I just remember because I would say about 2005 is when we became reacquainted with each other, which maybe is a good story to kind of,
yeah,
where did we first meet? And then there was a lapse in a period of time and then a random reoccurrence of meeting each other.
yeah, that was super cool actually.
So
Um,
where
so
did we first meet our first time?
so we met at Cannabis Reverend's house. I was blowing glass and he was blowing glass, and we became buddies. We met at this guy Purple's house. And then I went up to Seattle, visit him. I think actually, well, this was in 2000 because we went to Canada, to Vancouver. But that's where you and I first met, was at his house in 2000. And then, what was it? Maybe 2004, 2005. We're on Overgrow, which that guy, Cannabis Reverend turned me on to, was the whole internet thing. Like I had never been on it. I was always so super scared, but he turned me on to it. And then we met. Where was that rock? I think I was rocking Bubba Kush back then. And either I reached out to you, you reached out to me, not knowing that we had met before. And there was another guy, I forget his name. Did a couple of seed banks or seed brands. What, something Brothers? What was the guy's name?
Oh, Paradise Seeds Mod Brothel Brothers, old scammer John.
Yeah,
Scammer
yeah,
John.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He was another one that was like, yeah, man, I got the skunk, I got the cat piss. You're right. So and we were talking together, so I thought, we should all just meet up at once, and met with you and him, and of course, whatever he gave me wasn't skunk or nothing like that, or anything resembling it. It was,
Scammer John
and
doing his best.
yeah, yeah. But
Which,
I
funny
remember,
enough, just to stay on Scammer John for just 1 second to dispel a rumor to bring it full circle, the whole like John from Grass Valley, lemon tie, Pakistani Kush, and he made it, and that was the Brothel Brothers story about how they created OG Kush, right? That was John and
okay,
his like brother, and they were just it was just all bullshit, right? So if you've ever heard the like John from Grass Valley story or whatever, anybody out there, the guy that made that up is the person we're talking about.
all right, all right. I don't think I ever heard heard that story
That
from
was the
him.
Brothel Brothers story turned Kailua Kid OG Kush origin, which was the lemon tie bullshit story.
all right, all right, yeah.
And so
So
so you and I met, I think I was probably 16 or 17 years old at Jeff's house or parents' house on Mercer Island in
right,
Washington before you and him were going to about go to a cannabis culture cup, right?
yeah,
And at the time you had dreadlocks, if I remember right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Long
was
dreadlocks and and you're of an ethnic background, right?
right, right.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah, man.
I was 17, 16. That day was the first time I ever smoked bubble hash out of a Kevin Nail bubbler at Jeff's house. And that was like this Sweeties hash that like turned me on. I was like, wow, okay, this plant's amazing. Right. And
Right.
3 or 4 years later, I had collected that San Diego cat piss clone from this guy whose name is Philly up here. And I
Uh
was
huh.
posting online and you hit me up saying, "Hey, what's up with this cat piss?" And I told you my story, and you said, "Let's meet up. I got Bubba Kush. Let's trade." And we agreed to meet in Eugene, Oregon,
That's right. Yep. Yep.
and we went to a hotel room. I think you had rented the hotel room. I showed up. And I like knock on the door, or whatever. And I remember like bringing in all my shit or whatever. Or we had met in the parking lot and walked up. And I'm sitting there for like 30 seconds and I'm just like, I swear I know this guy, but you had cut all your hair, right? And I had long
Right.
hair too at the time. And I was like, God. And then we started talking and realized that we had met at Jeff's house maybe 4 years earlier.
Yeah. It's like a small freaking world, dude. It's crazy. Yeah, I love that
Especially as
story.
random as that was too. I mean, we had no idea who we each other were, and that's
Right.
really what it was back then. It's like everybody was trying to stay anonymous, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally. Had loose lips sink ships back then.
Hmm. And
Uh,
so we quickly became friends. You kind of brought me into the whole cannabis world private scene because you were a member of the private forum. And that's how I became friends with like Caleb because we did the Cannabis World Cups up in Mendo at Rosso
yeah.
Rifo's house. So why don't you tell me a little bit about your relationship with Rosso Rifo and kind of Mendo and the Emerald Triangle and all that?
Right. So Rosso, I also met on Overgrow. Um, Same thing, actually. Same time, about the same time that we met up. I met up with him, and he also wanted the Bubba Kush back then. So I remember I had two kids then, and I'm in my early 20s, and things weren't going that great. And Rosso really wanted the cut, and I was like, bro, I'd give it to you, but I just don't have the time or the cash to drive up there and drop it off. And man, never even meeting the guy. The guy sent me $1,000. Right? I was like, so anyhow, I met up with him, paid him back a little while later, and we became really good buds. And then he started throwing those cannabis cups over there, and like the whole little crew, D-Man, you, Caleb, everybody, we saw gather over there. It was good times. Um, and, you got to remember this is before even there was any kind of cannabis cup in America or anything like that. Everything was still pretty hush hush back then. Um, and then we became good friends. Lord Overtoke and his wife ended up
NCBA,
buying the. Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
all those guys.
They ended up buying the neighbor's house. They came out to Cali, fell in love, bought the neighbor's house, and started doing their thing. And um, eventually, eventually, I ended up taking over. I ended up taking over everybody's grow up there after a while. But
Well,
um,
in my experience, your gardens, the quality of your outdoor herb was always the highest of everybody I knew.
thanks, man. Thanks. Put a lot of love into it. A lot of my soul and passion all goes into that stuff, and that's what makes good weed. Good weed is if you love what you're doing, it's going to come out good. Like I've known plenty of people that just look at weed as money, right? And they're never producing anything really chronic or anything outstanding. And and most of them are gone now. But the true heads who've got the palate, they've all stuck around. Um, so yeah, we did. I was doing commercial outdoor grow for years. I stopped in 2018. Took a job with a company for a couple years, and that was it. But I did a lot of commercial outdoor for years and years. At one point, there was like 4 or 5 different properties all scattered throughout the Emerald Triangle, from Trinity, Shasta, Mendo. Uh, it was hard, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work. Um,
I used to
managing
joke.
all
I
that.
used to joke. I didn't know anybody that drove as much as you did.
Oh man, that was next level. I mean, at least 3 to 5 hours a day of driving. What a pain in the ass that fucking was. I'm kind of glad that part's over.
Well, I remember a couple times. One time was like the first time I came down to stay with you during outdoor season, and you
Right.
you had I think bought Rosso Rifo's Tundra supercharged Tundra off of him, right?
Oh,
And
that was the other neighbors.
or the other neighbors, yeah. And
Yeah.
you picked me up at the fucking airport in the lifted Tundra, and we're driving up out of Sacramento into the Sierras. And in the middle of the freeway, it's starting to get a little traffic, and I'm like, "What's going on here?" It's like 2005, you know. I mean,
Right.
still really illegal, and it's like 20 flats of Rockwell cubes, like
That's
just from the
right.
straight.
I totally remember that.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, I guess I am in California, huh? There's a hell of a lot more people growing weed down here, where it's just garbage on the freeway is fucking hydro store.
Grow equipment.
Yeah, exactly.
I, I know it. I
And
know it. Yeah, it got pretty crazy out here.
but
Everybody.
I must admit, it's still to this day, in my opinion, the best outdoor herb, and I think this is a climate thing, is from the Sierra foothills there.
Yeah.
Around 2,000 feet where you're at, the weather, the length of the season, the temperatures, the low humidity, all those things are absolutely just perfect. I know everybody likes to kind of hype up the Emerald Triangle, Mendo, and don't, Sonoma even, but
Right.
anybody I know that's been in the Sierras and really did it proper, all kind of have the same thing to say. The quality there is incredible for outdoor.
Yeah. I mean, the Emerald Triangle. What made that place what it is was, first you had all the coverage of the trees back in the day, and then second it was, district. It's northern district, right? And the judge back in the '90s and early 2000s was really lenient with the weed. I think he had a brother or something. This is just from what I've heard. I don't know if it's true or not, but had a brother that had cancer and who had used herb, as medicine. So the judge was really lenient. So I mean, if you got busted, it was either probation or just a little bit of time. But when you broke, like if you went to the Eastern District, which would be the Sierras or even Trinity County and stuff like that, the judge there was not having it. Like if you got busted, you were doing 5 years, right? No matter what. So it was the leniency. Everything was hidden. It is what made the Triangle popular, right? But weather-wise, you're close to the coast. It rains faster. What else? I mean, it gets colder. The climate's kind of rough over there compared to where you get more inland in the Sierras, 2,000 square foot elevation. Um, we have an extra 2 months in the Sierras, the growing season. You can start a month earlier and let the plants go a month later, right? Because of the weather. The elevation is also huge for outdoor growing. 2,000, 2,500, I found like to be the sweet spot. The lower you go, bigger the buds. The higher you go in elevation, smaller, tighter buds, but way more frosty. It's like you'll see like beer private reserve, grape, or private reserve grapes or hops and stuff like that. They're usually higher in elevation because I don't know what it does, but just brings out more sugar inside the plants when you're up higher. But the yields you don't yield as much. They go down. Same thing with smaller plants. If you start your plants a little bit later, come like July in California, and the plants, say like 4 foot, quality is also better than growing giant 5 to 10 pounder plants. They look better, they smoke better, they taste better all around. Different little tricks, when we first started, I was growing giant plants. Not very many. Kept it always under 99, but giant. They were monsters. And then as legalization and all that happened, and numbers didn't count anymore, it's better to start with smaller plants, but just pack them in more tighter. Right. So I mean, overall, space you're still getting the same amount, but just better quality,
The
less
plant
of a
count,
hassle too.
yeah, the plant count being the main factor in why it was done differently back then, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
And,
then
and so my first year that I came down there, I think was right around the time that you were kind of like, it was still big plants because basically from what I remember, your main strains that you ran were like uh GDP, um uh
right,
the blockhead, from
blockhead was huge. Yeah, that did a
from
lot of
Breeder
that one back
Steve,
then.
Trainwreck Urkel,
Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
and then the Malawi Gold and the Purple Indica for a few years after I had brought those
Yeah.
down to you, which I have those pictures from that year. Lots of sour diesel, uh,
Mm-hmm.
which I believe the clone of sour diesel that you were growing at the time was the one from Weir that came from Colorado originally. Is that correct?
I
Through the
got the clone.
forums.
I got the clone from Katsu Bluebird,
Okay.
and right. Actually, I got that blockhead clone from him as well too. He actually sent the blockhead clone as sour, and then I grew it out, and he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then he sent the sour diesel.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Because I thought that
Yeah.
I remembered that Jeff had given you some Spice of Life seeds, but I guess those were the shishka berries and stuff, huh?
Yeah, Jeff went out to Switzerland and met with Breeder Steve when he was out there and traded him a couple like double bubs for like his stash of seeds. Um, he gave me a lot of them. The what was it, Blue Satellite, Shishka Berries, Sweet Tooth. I don't think there was any Blockhead when he gave me. I think it was just those three.
I
And I
think
did
I
that
think you're
Sweet
right. I
Tooth,
just had associated those two because I knew that story.
right? Yeah, yeah, and I mean, Breeder Steve stuff back when he was in Swiss. That stuff was great outdoors. It all turned out really nice, real consistent. Not very for an outdoor farmer. I want seed plants that grow similar, right? 'Cause, I can't call like 10 different phenos the same thing. They would all have to come out with their own name. So I really like that with the with Spice of Life stuff. How everything came out real consistent and similar to where you could most of them you were able to like mix stuff into the bag and then I started trying other people's seeds and you see their picture, you grow them out, and you get 10 different looking plants out of one pack, and that was a pain in the ass. And that's actually pretty much when I started wanting to breed my own, try to get that one consistent seed line to where I could just do them, rock them outdoors, production style, right? Mix everything together. Nobody knows any different. And then you get double the yield from the seed. You're not getting any pathogens or molds or bringing any kind of crappy shit in from clones or nothing like that.
You don't have to have a
But
mother room over winter.
don't have to have right. There was all sorts
You
of
can
days.
start tomorrow planting. You don't have to have a mom and cuttings and clones going and watch your clones and have a clone room. It's like boom, pop seeds and you could have a field.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, the only downfall was picking out the males, but you know, and the other thing was I ended up getting bored of growing the clones. Right, it was the same thing. It ended up becoming kind of work for me. Like the passion was kind of getting lost. It was the same thing year after year, and Yeah, just with the seed, you never know what you're gonna get. It can it's just it's a surprise. It's a roll the dice. But yeah, once I started making my own and being able to just row crop them, and that was a big game changer for me for a long time, and what really brought me into the to breeding, right?
And so, what do you feel like was the first seed variety that you really had put work into and achieved the results you wanted, namely, like you're saying, consistency for outdoor production?
Right. The 707 chem, the
Okay.
chem 4, right? The chem 4. That one. I remember once growing it for my first time growing it and hanging it, and I left and I came back and I was just like, what is that smell? It smells like somebody puked, but lemony, and then I went into the room and opened up the door and boom, it was like, oh, that's the chem. So I really like that one the best. I did the 91. It's cool. It's kind of like OG, but lacked the flavor a little bit for me. I like the OG way better, so I stopped messing with that.
I agree.
The D is cool. I love the structure on that thing. It's a
Chem D.
hardy Chem D. Yeah, I really like the structure on those plants. And then what else? The Chem Sis was a good one. These are all growing outdoors and indoor, but the Chem Sis got really big. I think that one that has the most similar flavor to Chem 4, just not as much flavor, right? But it definitely did have better bud structure. Chem 4 has got a bad name because it's hard to grow, right? It's really sensitive to pH. And then like outdoor, if it sits for a month, that it goes gold brown. After 2 months, it's brown, and nobody really wanted it. And the indoor stuff, like I saw tons of people trying to grow that out, and it just seemed like they just either over nuked it or the pH. There was always real fluffy, burnt tips. Never really looked good. But the good batches you saw were definitely by far my personal favorite of the chem line. So I worked that the chem 4 and seed, and then
What was your initial outcross on the Chem for?
it was chem 91 Bubba back cross 3, right? So I did the Bubba. The Bubba was my very first one going, like working fully. I was working cat piss within all this stuff, just slowly, kind of back burner, because it wasn't a great outdoor plant.
Well, I think one good thing to mention, like while you were doing this, and I think this is why we're good friends, is you like popping seeds as much as I do, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a profit driven thing. You just want to work what you're working in, and
Right.
I think when you were doing a lot of this, from what I remember, kind of your main production seed line was actually the Kush cleaner that you were using for cultivation for yourself
Um, Kush
outdoor.
cleaner came. So first was that blockhead. That
Yeah.
that was my main outdoor, and then for a while I was doing a lot of the chem crosses, especially the 707 Kush.
Mhm.
That one just, I mean, it finished late, but it was super mold resistant, and it was just everybody just kept on asking for more of it. It's got the perfect blend of chem and OG, and it'll just rock anyone's world. It's so potent. Uh, so I did that for a while, and then Lauren, uh, Cannabis World member, gave me the Kush, or he called it long bottom leaf, and he gave me. So it's a subcool. What is it called?
Jack's cleaner.
Jack's cleaner. Yeah. Subcool's Jack's cleaner called Cross to OG, and he gave me a bunch of different crosses of them, and I grew them
That's
out
what
one
your
year.
Kush cleaner is. The
Kush,
the
yeah,
long bottom leaf was Jack's cleaner crossed with I can't remember what the male line was.
SFE OG. It was with SFE.
So that
And
would
then
have been like swerve seeds or something, maybe. I'm not sure. What
no, it was
SFVO?
actual.
No, no,
Yeah, it was actual
that's what
corn.
you made. I'm saying the long bottom leaf itself was what was that?
It's the exact same thing.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
well, so
The
the
Kush
Kush
Clean,
cleaner line was the male in the long bottom leaf. So and
Jack Cleaner's the male. SFV was the female.
right. So I'm
Lo-
trying to remember where that Jax Cleaner male came from. That was something that Loran had bred, but I don't remember what the original outcross was. Do you remember?
Uh, he no, he got it from Subcool. He popped them from Subcool seeds.
Okay, so it was Subcool Work would have been the
Yeah,
original source of the Jax Cleaner male cross to SFV that you then proliferated from the male that Loran gifted you.
yeah, yeah. He gifted me the male, and then I was asking him for more seeds every year, and he was just like, "Look, take the freaking male and just make your own."
Yeah.
Right, and that male it was a stud. I mean, everything it hit. I mean, it did pass off those Jack Terps, but it just made everything stronger and frostier, and yeah, just everything it touched. But
The heart
by
attack
far,
Kush.
what's that? Yeah,
Heart attack Kush.
right. Yeah, that. So then yeah, I started doing the Kush cleaner for years and years. So what I did was I was growing. I did the blockhead, which Breeder Steve asked me not to call the seeds that I offer blockhead. He's like, I don't care what you do with them, just don't call them blockhead. So I renamed them Love Candy. So I was doing those for early harvest, and then mid harvest was the Kush cleaner and also pineapple tie, and then late harvests were the OGs and the 707 Kush and stuff like that, right? So that way I was able to break things up and not be so slammed, and also I mean just the space it took to dry everything. I had to split it up between three different harvests. Um, so and what
So you
else
were
was
doing breeding to actually increase your productivity.
yeah
Not,
I just
not
bred.
just from a yield perspective, but also from a timing perspective, which I think a lot of people overlook in the possibilities of breeding and what it can do.
Right, yeah, exactly. Everything I breed, there's always a goal behind it. I'm either trying to improve structure or bring flavor. So for the longest time, that was my thing. I'm just back crossing, trying to make something stable. Now that I'm no longer in the game like that anymore, I've been kind of now that I've got all these, I've been making F1s and stuff like that, crossing them together, and see, finding the stuff that's hidden inside there, seeing what goes, and my whole breeding thing is going off to a whole different direction. And was doing, reversing the males.
You're the
I've
first
learned a
person
lot.
I ever heard of doing about that. Where did you read about that from?
I first heard about it. I was going to a tech school, and one of my classmates, that his family owns this town, Williams, and huge farmers. They grow everything like onions, tomatoes, rice. Huge cattle farmers too. Came to school one day, and he's got all these little brown spots on him on his clothes. And I was like, "What the hell are you doing?" And he was telling me how he was spraying silver nitrate on something. I want to say cucumbers. I don't remember what he said, but he was telling me how they was spraying silver nitrate on one of the crops for the seeds. And then, he didn't know I was growing, but we were both smoking together. And then I just started picking his brain a little bit, and he mentioned the Florel and how that will change males to females. So head spinning and whatever. Never went anything or never went anywhere with it at that point. And then years go by, and someone online, it was CTG, a guy named Chris online. he started mentioning it, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. And then so that's when I started playing around with the Florel and reversing the males, and so I like to reverse the males, pick out the frostiest ones. First, I go off structure, right?
Mhm.
Pick out all the best males that have the best structure. From there, then go reverse them. And I was always picking the frostiest, stankiest ones, the ones the terps that I'm after, right? Um, a lot of times I would get herms from picking these males. Sometimes I wouldn't get, like the Kush Cleaner male that I used, frostiest male I've ever come across, and I've reversed hundreds and hundreds of those males. Like every year when I was growing them outdoor, I pick out the best looking males and reverse them and see what was what. And made seeds with them, but that last one was just a true. Like I mean, it was crazy frosty, and like it all comes out in the crosses I made with it. Um, no herms or nothing like that. Plant does great, but there's been, I think, more times than not with these males that I've selected, I get more hermaphrodites. So what I'm pretty much convinced of now is plants that reverse easy are higher chance of producing herms. And I did a little test last year where I picked out my frostiest male, and I also picked out a male that just wouldn't reverse, and made seeds with them. And same. It was actually a cat piss. Um, the one that was super frosty and super stinky, I got some herms. The one that when I tried to reverse it and just wouldn't do it, I got no herms off of that at all. Right. So I'm pretty convinced on that. I'm still gonna go when I
So
reverse them. Go
so
ahead.
basically what you're kind of saying is that um the plants that show intersex traits, and that doesn't just mean intersex traits like just the organs, but also like the females have more resin. So the ones that have more resin or have the males that have more female like traits
Yes.
are
Are
are actually even potentially. So that's something for people to keep in mind, is that even it's not just the existence of the actual sexual organ being making it hermaphroditic, but even potentially some of the other traits that you associate with the other sex potentially affecting the output.
right. Exactly. Um,
Interesting.
there's yeah, the ones that definitely like bud really hard when you're reversing the males, they've pretty much produced herms. But then again, there's sometimes they don't, right? Like that Kush Cleaner male that I use, it doesn't produce any herms. But once you start getting into the F2s and whatnot, then they'll start popping out. So you never really know what you're going to get until you grow them out. I'm still reversing my males. I'm still going to pick out the frostiest ones, and I'm just going to structures that don't reverse, and I'll use both of those. I like to keep everything separate, one male to one female, and then grow those out, so I know exactly what male is doing what, right? And then from there I can go off into whatever direction I'm looking to get into. Um, so yeah, I just did that with the Kappas, and yeah, totally proved me right. And this year I'm kind of going pretty hard on the breeding too. So I got some lemon trees in the mix right now that I'm about to do the same thing to, and see how they do. But I'm pretty convinced that's the same thing. And I think like when you're reversing females, maybe the ones that really like flip hell easy probably maybe a higher chance compared to the ones that don't. Right, like I mean, I've tried to reverse that cat piss 3 or 4 times, and it always turns like it's about to, but it just never spits out any pollen. So,
I'm sure there
um,
is some, just like every other trait, there is some strain related differences with all that as well in terms of picking progeny and parents and the resultant instances of hermaphroditism.
right, and then some strains mix well with others, and some don't. It's always just a trial and error, seeing how
Exactly.
things go with it. Right.
Well, I think the
Um,
diversity that we, even with prohibition having happened, the diversity that we still have, there's a lot of hybrids that can still be made.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. I think between you and I, we could probably make anything you could imagine,
There's a pretty decent
flavor
sized
wise.
library there, and with enough work and selection, there's there's a level of diversity that I don't know of exists in any other species
Right.
in plants. Uh,
Yeah.
Orchids would be a good example of one, but even orchids from an olfactory standpoint, I don't know of any plant on the planet that has a more diverse range of smells and flavors than the cannabis plant. Nothing even close.
Right. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. No,
I
I'm
mean, think
thinking about
about
it. I
it.
can't think.
Let's think avocados or something. I mean,
Yeah.
you name it,
Tom-
raspberries,
Tomatoes, whatever.
pineapples, they all pretty much taste relatively similar of all those different species. Even when they're pretty different, they're still kind of similar. It'd be like,
Yeah.
coconut with a strawberry-ish flavor or strawberry with a little coconutty flavor. So, something just
Right.
slight, but it's not everything from a sweaty gym sock to latex adhesive to Skittles to,
Yeah.
a cat piss. I mean, it's like it almost encompasses every single smell and flavor that we know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The trippiest smell I've ever had was once when I was a kid. I bought a bag off this frat guy from Berkeley, and the bud tasted just like peppery tomatoes. It was the trippiest, right? And I've never seen anything since that. And this was back probably early '90s. But
Mhm.
peppery tomatoes, that one
The
I'll
the
never
real
forget.
OG Cushman, Chris, the Poison OG, he used to always tell me about this strain that he would buy, and they called it Turkey Dinner because
Turkey.
it smelled, tastes like a turkey dinner. I mean, like he loved it. It's like, I mean, there's almost everything out there. I mean, it's really truly unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Not to
totally
mention
agree.
the effects that are pretty enjoyable as well.
Yeah, yeah.
To not only get the olfactory experience, but also it having some sort of effect that's in tune with our actual endocannabinoid system. It's just pretty an amazing plant. And I was on Hash Church a little earlier, and I was just kind of talking about how lucky we were to have like Skunkman Sam and Robert Connell Clark that were really very scientifically minded people and were really uh, integral to the dissemination of good information about cannabis around the world, starting the ICBC, all these different international hemp and cannabis associations, so that it was basically somewhat normalizing cannabis around the world, so that there were pockets of growth like the Emerald Triangle and all these places. And we were really lucky to have those two guys to um show the way that this plant can be worked, and oh their books, the amount of like scientific discovery about the plant that we didn't have prior to that
Kathy.
is substantial. And
Right.
I don't think the how we talk about Thomas Edison about electricity, even though you've got Nikola Tesla and everybody else too, but you've got these guys that were integral to something that is synonymous and on every street corner like electricity is today. Those guys will be remembered as the equivalent for cannabis, and they're we're just not really seeing recognition for some of these contributions yet because it's not on every corner. But the foundations that were built on that we all learned from and were able to read these books when we were learning about growing cannabis before, I was fortunate enough that the internet was around, but when you started growing, it was just the books you can buy, and there was only a handful
That,
of them available.
yeah, that's how I learned was those books and High Times. Ask Ed, but yeah, Skunk Man, the Robert Clark books, those were pretty much where I started from, and then I learned by making every mistake there was. Right, make the mistake, never did it again, learned from it, and that's how I grew. But yeah, those guys were legends. My totally, that's who like I followed for years. Skunk Man, like their breeding practices, and then Spice of Life. I really like Breeder Steve's, and then who was the other guy with the back cross? Soul. Um,
Brothers
Shoot,
Grimm,
yeah, Brothers Grimm. And
C99.
then
Yeah.
I learned the back crossing from that guy, and then that just took it to a whole new level. And then then added my own twist to it with the selection of the males and keeping things, just go in my direction to what I was looking after. Um, High yields, flavor, mostly flavor. It's got to taste good. Most herb that tastes really really good also has a really really nice effect to it, right? I would say
Absolutely.
just a few taste really really good, but there's
Uh,
not much to it. But
to be honest, I don't even really like smoking cannabis that has no olfactory benefit. Just smoking pot to get high, but it tastes like junk is like
yeah,
desperate on vacation type of behavior to me. It's like only if I'm really stressed out and there's no other alternative, but it's like I don't get stressed out that easily and I'll probably have
yeah.
some weed with me wherever I go. So
Totally. Yeah, if it's fucking the Marlon brand of Blando, it's not going anywhere near my lungs, right?
it's just not
Um,
it doesn't have the same effect to me.
exactly, exactly, right. And we're smokers, and just relaxing with a tasty doobie all day long, right?
Yeah, I
Try
mean
to,
like look, if I was in prison, I would eat the slop, but I would never be outside prison voluntarily eating slop every day, you know?
yeah, totally, totally, totally. So yeah, so back to the cat piss. In the high school days, the hazy ones I really liked. And I try to find all these cuts back then, and with no luck, I was only able to find that Uncle Bob, the Pittsburgh Piss. Um, so at least the terps were. I was able to preserve the terps on that, right? They're not going anywhere ever again, and I still search to this day, and I can't really find much that has that terps anymore. I haven't come across anything
Well,
that
you were
has that
telling me that
flavor.
you had good success with the pee pee poo poo. Tell me about that, Cross.
Oh yeah,
Cat
yeah.
piss.
So I crossed the cat piss to the dog shit, also to African haze and a black haze. Um,
Nice.
but the dog shit ones are really really impressing me. I'm getting like every version of every note of different cat piss possible in each phenos. Uh, just that haziness, and that cat piss is almost hazy, but it's got a little bit more of a sweetness on the front end than a haze does. So the two just blended really really nice. I'm a little scared to say, but dare I say even roadkill skunk inside there? We'll see.
Notes
I'm
of
about
it.
a month in, but
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to be one of those people that's trying to sell something that's not what it is. But I'm definitely smelling some skunky, just everything from the '90s.
Yeah.
I'm getting out of these ones right now.
Uh,
Super
yeah.
stoked on them. Uh,
I've
yeah.
smelled some notes in a couple varieties I've seen recently as well. There's the garlic skunk from Golden Coast Genetics. I feel like has
Okay.
notes of of roadkill.
Right.
There's a Gorilla Glue Moonbow 75 that I selected that I think maybe we were talking about.
Uh
That's
huh.
pretty roadkilly, and there's an HP 13 skunk dog or the Maui skunk dog clone. I think is also another
Right.
good place to kind of. I mean, I feel like if you took kind of what you're talking about and mixed all these lines together, a very skunky haze cat piss line with a bunch of skunky hash plant varieties, and there might
Yeah.
be something special in one of those hybrids.
Yeah, totally, totally.
So
You know,
that's
like we
maybe
were
something we'll
talking
have to look
earlier,
into doing.
mix in, varieties that are different, maybe growth structure wise, but similar flavors. You start getting a nice little mix. But once we get into the F2s, we'll really start seeing a lot of different expressions. Like right now, it's 50-50. The plants are growing 2-3 times faster than cat piss does, but and then maybe like 1 time shorter than what dog shit does. But all the flavors are just every different note of kind of cat pissy herb you can get is coming out of these right now. Super. I haven't been excited like this for a while on a variety that I've come across. But I don't know, the past few years, like I was talking about reversing the males, I had so many epic fails, so many just like it was like 90% herms, and chickens were happy because they got to eat all the leftover seeds and all the seeds, but it was kind of discouraging for a while, and then then I come across this, and I'm getting pretty stoked. We'll see how they turn out, though. I'm still about a month away from being finished.
Well, don't forget to harvest them early because that's what made a lot of the stuff skunky back in the day too.
I tell people that too with the cat piss. You can pull it anywhere from 6 to 9 weeks.
Yeah.
The actual clone, right? At 6 weeks, I find it more skunky, the flavor and the smell a little bit more sharp, right? More piercing, compared to when it's all the way at 9 weeks. It starts losing a little bit of that to it. But I mean, the buds definitely fill out a hell of a lot more. But yeah, that is one of the few strains I do like to pick early for myself.
Um, yeah, well, it sounds like, the cat piss, Pacific Northwest West dog shit, kind of like both indica haze hybrid potentially,
Right.
co-mingling together essentially because like we are discussing, there may be some haze genetics in that NorCal cat piss clone that you have, even though it doesn't visually appear to.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally. Where I did have cat piss smell come out of was the Malawi crosses.
Yep.
The old Malawi.
I've
That
gotten it
that
out
one.
of the dog shit before as well. Just I had Planet Purple dog shit, and I didn't really like the flavor on the two that I got, but they smelled cat pissy like your cat piss. Not, I felt like your cat piss was better of that smell, so I didn't keep them. But
Right.
I know that the DS for sure has a certain portion of the population that goes that direction.
That goes that way.
Yeah,
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Same thing with the Malawi. I was gonna
yeah.
dig through some more of those this year and
And that
search,
was
search for
the
them.
Malawi NL Hayes that I gave you. Is that what we're talking about? Or is that
The pure Malawi.
okay? You
The
still have
pure.
the pure Malawi clone.
Yeah, no, I don't have the clone anymore, but seeds that I made a long, long time ago.
Got
I've
it.
been,
Got it.
yeah,
And
these past few years, I've been just cleaning out my fridge and growing everything I have. Like
cool.
I never thought I was ever gonna be possible to grow it all out, but I've made a huge dent. I'm just every month I've been planting more and more. Everybody's stuff, random stuff. Half of them I don't even know where they came from. I should post pictures of the packages and see who gave them to me and give them credit. But
Yeah.
yeah, finally, I'm not. I don't sell it anymore. I grow it, and most of it, I would say 90% of the plants after they're done, I just throw away.
Yeah.
If it's not smelling dank, I'm not gonna even bother drying it or anything like that. I just throw it away now.
Chicken
So
food.
yeah, totally rabbit feed.
But I think one thing that's interesting about that Malawi gold clone, just even in the moment, and kind of ties everything together, and maybe we'll, kind of finish this episode at least on this note, is that pipe you're smoking right there is a Max Pollen pipe, right? Little
Yeah,
bubbler. And
yeah, little bubbler.
so Max is actually who the Malawi gold clone was originally sourced from.
Okay. I remember Jeff telling me that.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
And I can't remember where Max got it from. I think he got it from this group of guys that's related to the HP-13 that made it to Hawaii and all that story, which is maybe a
Okay.
different episode and story to have. But I think it's from that same group of people. And I can't remember. I'd have to ask him. I'd like to confirm it actually before I give anybody credit. But for sure, it came from Max. You're smoking a Max pipe. I'm always smoking a Max pipe. And it's,
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about maybe our group of friends and kind of stuff is we try to keep things inside the circle as much as we can. Once
Right.
you have a friend that you really respect what they do, we try to support each other.
Support each other. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. We're pretty lucky that way.
Yep.
Yeah. And these Max pipes, out of everything I've owned, his always hit the best. It doesn't matter what kind of style he's making, they always fucking hit hella hard.
I even have, I just got a Puffco attachment from Max.
Um, Baller.
Right.
Hella nice.
My
Yeah.
partner in Oregon, he um got Max to make these, and we just had them out at the Billy's event, which I think we're gonna need to get you to judge the Hayes category next year for the Billies.
I,
Um,
I love it, man. I
you
love it.
are
I'd
you are
love to come
very,
out.
very well qualified to judge that category and have a preference and decide what you really feel like is something that stands out.
Appreciate it, bud. Yeah, as I'm getting older, I've been really enjoying the late flowers more, the more sativas. In my younger days, I was always indica. But now as I'm getting a little bit older, I've been really, really liking them. Um, the buzz on it and everything. More of the head to them, but yeah, I'd be totally down. That'd be awesome.
Well, and I don't think we've worked these hazes nearly as much as we can. I think there's a lot of improvements that can be made on these varieties that we simply kind of
Yeah,
overlooked in the pursuit for purple and frosty and potency. We overlook some of these other really unique varieties, and it's nice to see people like you still putting time and work into that type of stuff. Kind of a passion project, hobby thing to keep you busy in retirement, whatever it may
yeah,
be. Um, it's nice to see, and I think that there will be a market and a demand for that as the regular consumer decides to engage with the cannabis industry and
yeah.
availability increases and diversity starts to become more available to the average consumer.
Right, right. Similar to like what happened with the Dutch a long time ago. They had their market, and then the long flowering hazes started picking up over there and taking over the market. So yeah, we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
But right on, bud.
Shaw, thanks for doing this little podcast, and we'll
Thanks, man.
do another one here soon and keep people updated. Thanks, bud.
Right on. Appreciate it, bud. Take her easy.